Hunter Yurachek, more like Hunter Yura.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA Radio Network's Luke Robinson. That's me. Alabama internet legend Jimmy Stein. That's him. I want to thank you guys for making us the #1 sports podcast in America. That's the Locked On Network, and we're a part of it. So we appreciate you guys so very much. Jimmy, the college football playoff rankings are out, and I'm pretty sure they're on drugs. This is terrible. Now, let's go ahead and get this out of the way. There'll be some who come in the comments and go, just win all your games remaining. Okay, fair enough. Okay, we get that, right? And I've usually taken up for the committee because I've always been like, I mean, it's tough and it is a fluid situation. It's like the Constitution, you know, you can interpret and do, and it's a living, breathing thing and whatever. But man, how on God's green earth can you look at the resumes of Alabama and Notre Dame and have Notre Dame ahead of Alabama? And then if you were going to say, well, Alabama's loss is much worse than either one of Notre Dame's loss, fair. Most of Alabama's wins are better than all of Notre Dame's wins. I mean, the vast majority. And you didn't even go there to make that asinine argument, which I almost would have understood only relative to the fact that your argument was Alabama's not good rushing the ball. And you have Oklahoma ahead of us, who, by the way, rushed for fewer yards we did in the game we played them. Jimmy?
Yeah, I mean, I'm there's a couple things here. Yeah, I'm really pretty furious about Alabama being behind Notre Dame. First of all, if you think about, for all those that are saying, well, look at Alabama's loss to Florida State. Well, there's still a lot of football left to be played. You know, it's kind of hard to say how things are going to end up. But Florida State could end this year 7-5. It's not crazy based on who they're playing. Florida State could end the year 7-5. Know who else might end the year 7-5? Pitt. Pitt plays at Georgia Tech and then Miami. And then Pitt's finishing 7-5. That's Notre Dame's second best win with the same record in the same conference as our horrid loss. I mean, that's one way to look at it. Another way is Alabama. This is the year, by the way, the committee was told you must take into account strength of schedule and the quality wins. You must do that. Alabama's in a precarious position of potentially being left out with the #1 strength of schedule of any of the top 25 teams and the most wins against their very own top 25. And per Hunter Yurachek, Alabama's in danger of being left out because they don't run the ball very well. I don't know how that's somehow related to who wins and loses the games. Is this going to affect Alabama's game plan at Auburn, by the way? When Ryan Grubb smartly says, to beat Auburn, we're going to have to throw the ball 45 times because that's what we're really good at. And someone else speaks up and says, oh, no. The committee wants to see us run the ball. Better show up and run the ball. I mean, it's like, at what point does winning matter to that committee? And, you know, you already made the point there on your itinerary. Why we beat our heads against this wall every year. Why does Alabama ever schedule a tough out-of-conference game? It doesn't matter. It doesn't help. It never helps. The only thing the committee cares about is you winning games, and they don't care who those games are against. They don't. That's what they care about. How many wins are in the win column? What's the number in the loss column? That's all they care about. It does not benefit you to play a tough schedule. We've said that year after year after year after year right here. Nothing's changed. So why do we keep doing it?
We shouldn't. But now the problem is we have to keep doing it because it's mandated by the SEC now. So
it's mandated by, the non-conference games, yes. And they do mandate you to play one.
Well, what we can do is cancel Ohio State and put in Wake Forest or whatever.
Exactly. Exactly.
And that's what we should do.
Exactly.
And here's my thing. That's 100% what we should do. Hunter Yurachek stepped in it. He really did. Hunter, you're a joke. That's what it is. This is and you come on there and you talk out of all sides of your mouth and other various orifices, and you bring up these arguments that make no sense. And again, I get it that I would rather he say, hey, some of us the eye test, that we think Notre Dame's playing a better football than Alabama right now, and we think they're a better team than Alabama right now. If he had just said that, I'd say, I don't agree, but I can see it. And the only reason I can see it is because Notre Dame plays a much easier schedule. But it just makes no sense. And again, I totally understand that if Alabama just beats Eastern Illinois and then beats Auburn, in my opinion, they're in from that point forward. But what is worrisome is what if you do go to the SEC championship game? And what if you do lose? Let's say you lose by 14 points to a Georgia or an A&M or an Ole Miss or whoever you play. I don't think it'll be Ole Miss, but I think it'll be one of those other two. And, you're coming off a game against your arch rival and what is essentially a play-in game against Auburn. So you're probably going to be, pretty beat up and tired in a pretty raucous environment. And then you go and you lose that game. I mean, the first thing I would point to is last year and say, hey, y'all kept SMU's sorry butt in this thing with playing nobody.
They lost to a 3-loss team that was not in the playoff field until they won the ACC championship. And they kept it.
And if we do happen to play Texas A&M, by the way, in the SEC championship game, again, I'm assuming we beat Auburn. I've already told you I'm predicting us to lose to Auburn, so all this is moot. We will have played Texas A&M. Let's just assume we lost. We will have beaten Georgia on the road. We will have played Oklahoma, and yes, we did lose to them at home. We beat Vanderbilt, who's number 14 in these rankings. We beat number 20 Tennessee, who's in these rankings. We beat number 22 Missouri on the road, who's in these rankings. So, and then I'm looking at Notre Dame. I'm struggling. I'm like that meme of that woman who's like squinting like this, and the meme always says, "I'm looking for blank." I'm looking for where's Notre Dame's good win? Is it USC?
USC. They beat USC. I'll give them that. That's a good win.
Okay, but it is. But will it be a good win after this weekend when they lose to Oregon?
Won't be quite as good. Won't be quite as good, and it'd still be pretty good, but it wouldn't be quite as good. And their second best win is probably Pitt. And again, Pitt might finish with the same 1-loss record as Florida State, which is the albatross around Alabama's neck. Florida State could finish 7-5 with the win over Florida at the end. Pitt loses to Georgia Tech and Miami. That's not crazy. So how is Pitt a reason to put Notre Dame in over Alabama and Florida State a reason to knock Alabama down when they could finish with the same record? Beyond that, Hunter Yurachek also apparently gave A&M some sort of compliment for their comeback win over South Carolina, while at the same time sort of dogging Alabama for their comeback win over South Carolina, which was on the road. I think here's my, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not. This is my explanation. The best one I can come up with is a little conspiracy. I think they want Notre Dame in. And a problem for them if they want Notre Dame in is what do you do with Miami? Because Miami beat them head-to-head. And Miami would have a really good argument to be ahead of Notre Dame because they have the same 1-loss record, strength of schedule sort of similar. Miami beat Notre Dame head-to-head. How can they keep Notre Dame ahead of how can they keep Notre Dame in, Miami out? Here's one way. Put Alabama in between them. Because Miami does not have a good argument as it relates to Alabama. Miami should not be ahead of Alabama. I'm sure Miami fans disagree, but they're the only ones. Miami should not be ahead of Alabama. So they put Notre Dame ahead of Alabama, and then Alabama acts as a barrier between the two. Therefore, they don't need to make the Miami versus Notre Dame decision. That's why I think they did what they did, and they came up with all this other fluff and poop to disguise what they were really doing, which is Notre Dame in, Miami out. We're going to use Alabama to do that.
I think it's simpler than that, and I'm going to tell you why I think it's simpler than that when we come back. FanDuel, the NBA is back. LeBron James was back last night. The Lakers put up 140. And there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride that hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets and do a same game parlay for a shot at bigger payouts. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up today. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Jimmy.
The NBA.
All right, I told you what I'm going to tell you is simpler than that. I think he forgot. I don't think he had a good – I think it's one of those things I've done this before. You think you've got everything organized. It's like when you have for instance, a wedding to plan and you're planning the wedding dinner. And you know in your mind you can't sit Uncle Jack next to Aunt Julie. They don't like each other. And you can't sit them at the same table. But what happens is everything is so chaotic. And then before you know it, when everybody shows up, you see Uncle Jack and Aunt Julie right next to each other at the same table. You're like, how did I do that? I better come up with a reason. And my reason is going to be really stupid, but I better come up with one. And I think that's the only thing that it could be here is that when the rankings were all put together, everybody's like, get those rankings done. And then they put them on the screen. You could almost see and be like, yes, we have miscalculated. And it's like he had to come up with something about rushing. Let me tell you, Mr. Yurachek, you're so worried about everybody's rushing. Guess what? Oklahoma, we did against Oklahoma. We had 80 yards rushing against Oklahoma. Guess what Texas A&M did against South Kakalaki? Guess, Jimmy.
Less than 80?
64. So if you're so worried about rushing, why don't you dock them a few points?
And why isn't Missouri ranked higher? They're as good a right. Ahmad Hardy leads the nation.
He's the leading rusher.
Right, Missouri.
They rush all over everybody. It's so stupid.
Where are the service academies? If this is a metric, where are the service academies?
It's so stupid. I'm getting really mad. This is so stupid.
It is. And here's a nightmare scenario. And when people think y'all making too big a deal of this, Alabama's in. Okay. Alabama's in the final spot. The last spot is 10 this year because there's going to be a group of 5 team and an ACC team that are outside of the top 12 that get in. So
there may not be an ACC team get in, by the way. There may not be, right?
May not be, but I think there's a better chance now than there was before. But you're probably in the last spot, number 10. What happens if BYU beats Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship game? Well, BYU's in. You're going to drop Texas Tech below Alabama? You should, but will they? Probably not. So that's one disaster scenario. What happens when you can't keep Miami and Notre Dame farther apart, and now we can't include Notre Dame without including Miami? They beat them head-to-head. Who's going to be the victim in that? And again, Alabama's in this final spot. If someone's going to be a victim, it's the team in the final spot. So we're not overreacting, but we'll see how it plays out. I do think Alabama beating Auburn, if that happens, and obviously if Alabama loses to Auburn, this is a wasted episode because Alabama's not going to be anywhere near the playoff. They lose to Auburn. But assuming Alabama beats Auburn and makes it to the SEC championship game, I don't think Alabama's being left out. I really don't. But I do think that the way the committee approaches this is, as usual, all wrong. The basketball committee gets it right. I don't know why the football committee never does. Their thinking is just so flawed. And again, if they take into account strength of schedule and quality wins, maybe we would have something here. But they don't. They take into account, per their own words, rushing yards.
Let me do one more. I just looked it up. If Alabama beats Eastern Illinois and Auburn, okay, first of all, I would say, okay, if your argument is you're playing an Auburn team that's not a vintage Auburn team, that's fair. They're not. They hadn't been vintage in 6 years. However, they fought Oklahoma tooth and nail at their place, probably got, hosed on a couple of calls. They fought Georgia tooth and nail at home. They fought Missouri tooth and nail.
They got fired. Refs were so bad in that game, they got fired.
Yeah. They beat Missouri. Well, they didn't. They lost to Missouri in OT. They took Vanderbilt to OT. I mean, so what I'm saying is they are, excuse the Hugh Freeze pun, they are kind of close. Now, if you want to say, well, you're playing Eastern Illinois and Auburn to finish up the season, it should matter if you win the SEC championship game. Guess who Notre Dame finishes up with? Syracuse and Stanford. And those two teams are combined 6-14.
Against not good schedules. Against
3-7 and 3-7 as of right now. And my guess is they'll probably end up somewhere around 3 and whatever, however many games they got left. So I'm just saying, Hunter Yurachek, first of all, thanks for the SEC help, jackass. You're in this league. So, I mean, by the way, somebody did ask me a while back, and I've always been meaning to tell this story. Because they say, Luke, why do you always say everything? Because I got to tell it, because there was a guy that worked at the foundry for my father for a long time. And back in the day, there was no trash service where my parents lived on Lake Martin. Like there just wasn't. So they had to have somebody come and get the trash from the house and take it to a dump somewhere else or whatever. And so this was that guy. And he did it for a lot of people on Lake Martin. And he came into the house one day right after they had redecorated back in the 80s. And Mom and Dad just went mirror crazy. They had mirrors everywhere, all over I know that sounds funky, but I don't think it has anything to do with that. All over the bedroom, everywhere. And he comes in, he goes, what's happening back here? And my mom said, yeah, we just redecorated, the whole house, and the decorator just loves mirrors. So he goes, wow, Mr. Ricky loves to watch himself do everything. And I just thought that was so funny. So I've always kept up with that, and I've never not said it. I mean, I don't even know how to say everything anymore except right.
I was hoping the story was going to be when you said why this particular guy you're talking about, when they taught him the alphabet, for whatever reason, somehow something happened and they skipped the letter V. They just skipped it. So he doesn't know about the letter V. Like I don't know what that means.
I do know some people who have skipped the letter V all their lives
because
or other various alphabetic numbers.
Just skip because if you to him the alphabet was one less letter than everyone else. So just never use V's.
Yeah, it's like
pronounce vivacious, acious.
Well, it's like my 9-year-old daughter loves to tell the joke. I only know 25 letters in the alphabet. I don't know why. So it's not bad.
That's a good one.
It is good.
That's good. I'm using that I'm using that.
It's weird when your 9-year-old's telling you dad jokes. But okay. I'm looking at the rest of this, and I want to try. I'm trying to understand him in a way, but I'm also so mad at him I don't think I can. So look, tell me where you first start having a problem with the rankings. Ohio State 1, no problem, right?
Yep. Well,
Indiana 2, I would put A&M there, but I get it. And A&M 3, fine. Georgia 4, also fine. Texas Tech and Ole Miss at 5 and 6. I would definitely flip-flop.
I would flip them. Ole Miss has not only got a better resume, Ole Miss has just looked better, in my opinion, most of the time, particularly when you take into account who they play. So that's where it goes wrong for me right there is I think Ole Miss should be higher than Texas Tech. So,
okay.
Yeah, that's where I start having an issue with it.
Let me say something that might be controversial to those who are hate watching and just want to see me ticked off. You start with the 2-loss teams, Oklahoma 8, Notre Dame 9, Bama 10.
Well, you skipped over. There's Oregon's in there somewhere, right?
Oh, Oregon's at 7. I'm sorry. I mean,
Oregon has a weak resume. Now, I get them ahead of the 2-loss teams, I guess, but
yeah,
Oregon
I think that's where you got to put them.
They do have a weak resume. They'd sort of fix it if they beat USC. I mean, Oregon can legitimize where they are, but they have to beat USC this weekend. Yes. I'm not 100% sure they will, by the way. I think
no. I'm with you on that. I want them to because I think it'd take USC out of the picture. Now, here's my thing on the 2-loss teams. If you're saying that, okay, we've got to have Oklahoma ahead of Alabama because they beat them.
Okay.
Well, how do you have Miami at 13 and Notre Dame at 9?
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I see that this is their issue, and that's why they have to put Alabama between Notre Dame and Miami.
Let me say this, and I understand that is sort of a cop-out. It's so easy to poke holes in this. If you're going to say, okay, we think Oklahoma's playing better, or we think Notre Dame's playing better than Miami. And maybe Notre Dame's resume is better. I don't know that it is. I mean, I'm just asking. Then if you're going to rank the 2 lost teams in there and take Miami out of it for a second, and you only have Oklahoma, Notre Dame, and Alabama should be number 8, even though Oklahoma beat them, because Alabama's resume overall is better than Oklahoma's. They certainly have a better win. Oklahoma's best win is us. Our best win is on the road at Georgia. It is. There's a pretty big difference there. I know theirs was on the road. Oklahoma's was too. And I'm cool with Oklahoma being ahead of us. But what I'm saying is, because Notre Dame is between us and Oklahoma, this is what makes it so stupid.
Alabama should be ahead of Notre Dame, period. And if we're like, well, if you do that and you knock Notre Dame back to the 10 spot, they're so close to Miami that how do you have Miami not ahead of Notre Dame? This is why. To me, you can't explain it. Seen both of them play. Notre Dame's a better football team now than they were earlier in the season. Number one, that loss was a while back. Number two, Miami has lost to Louisville and SMU. Notre Dame's losses are at Miami and Texas A&M. There's a huge difference there. Huge difference there. And that's why I would just stick to my guns and say, I know they have the same record. We do take head-to-head seriously, but there's other factors too. And we think Notre Dame's just the better team than Miami today. And the only people in the world that I think would be really upset about that are Miami fans. I think the rest of the college football world would sort of see that and say, it's probably right. Miami did lose to Louisville and SMU. Mm-hmm. They're not in the rankings. Notre Dame's only lost to ranked teams that are not only ranked, but good, top 13 teams. One of them on the road. So should have been Alabama 9, Notre Dame 10 from there.
That said, and again, we're getting in this circular stuff. Notre Dame, I mean, Miami clearly has a better win than Notre Dame in Notre Dame, because Notre Dame doesn't really have a win over anybody of any consequence. I guess USC. That's it. Right. And so, I mean,
shows how consequential the USC-Oregon game is this weekend, because someone's losing some luster there. If Oregon loses, it's really hard to keep them in the top. They're out of the playoff. I mean,
they should be.
They'd be so they're that. But then like, well, what do we do with USC? But if Oregon wins and USC picks up that third loss, why is Notre Dame where they are? That's their best win. USC could be out.
And you know what? This is their saving grace.
No ranked wins and be ahead of the team with the most ranked wins over ranked teams. That's insane.
That's their saving grace. They need badly for Oregon to beat USC, and maybe badly. So you can justify kicking them to the curb and then putting Alabama where they should be back over Notre Dame, because you say, you know what? I heard him say this a million times, and he can take his data points and stick them up as Yurachek. He kept saying data points. Well, we're going to have another data point. If USC loses to Oregon, they'll have 3 losses. They'll either be on the back of the 25 or out of the 25. So all of a sudden, Notre Dame's got no top 25 wins. And Alabama, even though they will have only played Eastern Illinois, I think you can justify moving them ahead, because you'll say Notre Dame lost a crucial data point. That's what you say, and that's what we're going to roll with. And we're still going to be PO'd next week, I'm willing to bet you. But we got to talk about game time. Game time. College football is back. I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it, yo. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel more like a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping up at checkout, all that stuff. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I love pulling up Game Time because I know I'm going to get a great deal. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's all one word. For $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply because they apply to everything. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege, $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Right, Jimmy?
Yeah, right.
Thanks. Way to back me up there.
I'm a Game Time fan. But I probably look at Game Time almost every day for something, to be honest.
Yeah, because they do have good concert tickets and stuff like that.
Yeah,
too,
I'm a concert guy on Game Time, for real.
Well, let me tell you what. Tonight, Bama plays Illinois, and this is another part of the Nate Oats suicide tour. It is crazy, the schedule we're playing, and Illinois is full of Eastern Europeans that love to rebound. And Nate Oats was asked about, like, would we recruit? He's like, yeah, but I thought it was kind of a, like, not a strange answer, but I was like, dang, Nate, okay then. He said, I think Illinois and who was the other team that we just who did we just play that lost? Oh, Purdue. He said those teams, they might have bigger war chest than us, and so they can go out to Europe and they can make somebody an offer that's more than whatever that professional team will be playing. And I was like, okay, Nate. I mean, I see you, and you might be right. I just don't know that I would have said that. I mean, I can't tell if it's insulting or not. So I usually try to stay away from things like that. But that said, Alabama is a 3.5-point dog at Illinois. We beat them last year in Birmingham, as everybody knows. Illinois is a really good team. I think they're ranked number 8. And this would be certainly a big feather in the cap. Here's the catch, Jimmy, and I'm going to the Vegas Players Era tournament. I can't wait. Going to see Bama, Gonzaga, Bama, UNLV. UNLV's apparently not very good this year, so that's okay. But Gonzaga, they could be the best team in the country. And we've got to now go to Illinois and play them. Then we got to go out west and play a Gonzaga team. It's not crazy to think this time next week we're 2-3.
Well, again, thankfully, we have a basketball committee that takes into account who you're playing and where you're playing, and they reward teams that play really tough schedules if you manage to squeeze out some wins here and there. The basketball committee gets it for whatever reason. The football committee never will. But it's crazy to me, Luke, that we're playing Illinois, a top 10 team. I think, like you said, they're number 8, in Chicago at the United Center, where the Bulls play. And it doesn't even feel like a monster game because you've already played St. John's and Madison Square Garden. You come home, you play number 1 Purdue. It's almost like this game at Illinois is an afterthought. It's number 8 in the United Center, in one of the most famous NBA arenas on the planet. And it feels like, well, it's not as big as the other two. But no, Illinois is an outstanding team, big and physical. It would be a heck of a win, a heck of a bounce back. It would be an understandable loss if that happens. The schedule is just absolutely brutal, but this will pay off for Alabama when it comes time to the selection committee and when it comes time to SEC games. What SEC games are going to freak you out? When you've played St. John's and Madison Square Garden, when you've played Illinois in the United Center, when you've played Gonzaga in Las Vegas in the Players Era Festival, what SEC games freak you out? This is toughening up this basketball team. And win or lose, this is a great opportunity, and it's only going to help the team.
Yeah. And then the SEC could use this. I mean, last night, Kentucky got buried by Michigan State. They've already lost, I think, to Kansas or Duke or somebody earlier in the year. Yeah, we beat St. John's, but Auburn lost to Houston again. I know it was only by 1 point. Auburn played admirably. But Arkansas, I mean, just was able to squeak by. I forget exactly who they were playing, but Winthrop, maybe somebody like that.
Right.
And they did you see Nick Pringle almost got into like a fight right at the end of the game? And somebody tweeted this, that if it had been a 10-point game either way, or even a 5-point game either way, with that little time left, it was only a couple of seconds or whatever, after Arkansas finally took the lead, then Pringle would have been thrown out, and he should have been. I mean, like, immediately. But because it was a tight game, I guess they didn't want to do that, which I think is so stupid. I hate it when people say you need to swallow your whistle on plays like that, or because you don't out. If he does something that is grossly illegal and he's supposed to be tossed, toss him. And it just seemed like Pringle instigated all that to me. And I have no problem with Nick Pringle. I still appreciate his contributions to the team.
He's one of my favorite players of all time because he's the only college basketball player I can name that I think is as old as we are.
Very good point. Him and Diego Pavia are going to go have a beer one day through IVs.
Dude's in his mid-50s out there fighting these college-age kids.
He said, "Get off me, young buck." All right. That's going to do it for today's podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.